Welcome to Paper Mill Prologues. For the third show of our 86th season, we are excited to introduce our audiences to a new musical featuring some familiar tunes. Mystic Pizza, based on the cult classic film from 1988, brings us a blast from the past with celebrated hits of the 80s and 90s, while also delivering a heartfelt coming-of-age tale of family and community. The goal of Prologues is to give our audience an extra layer of insight and context for our productions by exploring some of the themes, histories, and cultural relevance behind each show. What we provide is by no means exhaustive, and we encourage you to continue to explore any topics we raise here on your own. You can also reference our works cited list at the end of the video to dig even deeper. In this video, we'll be taking a closer look at the coastal communities that inspired the story at the heart of Mystic Pizza, and at the role women play, both within the story and in creating it. At the heart of the Mystic Pizza story, we find three young women, Kat, Daisy, and JoJo. Two are sisters by birth, and the third, a sister by choice. The story follows each sister through the pivotal moments that will ultimately shape their futures. As we know from the era-defining track list, Mystic Pizza transports us back to a different time, and director Casey Hushion spoke of returning again and again to the idea that Mystic Pizza is, in fact, a period piece. And we see that, both musically and culturally. From the very beginning, we can see the struggles these young women of the 80s are facing. Daisy, defined even by those who love her by her looks and charisma, cannot recognize the depths of potential within. Kat, equally defined by others by her intellect, measures her worth similarly. And JoJo, who though she has a chance at great love and has the drive to dream big, can't quite envision such a multifaceted life for a woman of the time, and yet she refuses to settle for anything less. The adults in their lives are strong role models, but are limited by the dictates of their time. Leona, the owner of the pizza shop, is a pillar of her community, offering a gathering place for moments of shared celebration and commiseration, though we see that she sacrificed for what she has and still struggles to stay afloat. The original writer of the Mystic Pizza screenplay, Amy Holden Jones, found herself similarly trapped by the confines of her time. In a 1980s article for the New York Times titled "The Struggle of Women Directors," Sally Ogle wrote, "Some male industry leaders today rush to explain the dearth of women directors. Women don't have the technical skill to direct. Women can't control the floor. Male crews don't respect them. Women are stubborn, inflexible, and won't compensate. Women make heavy-handed, messagey films that no one wants to see. Women don't have the physical stamina." The chauvinism ran deep in Hollywood. When interviewed about the film, Jones spoke of writing Mystic Pizza in order to have a passion project she herself could direct. She said, "Every studio passed on it. Universal offered to make it if I made the women into men. Ultimately, Samuel Goldwyn optioned it with me to direct, but Sam was not a fan of working with women, and he made my life hell. Ultimately, he stalled, finding reason after reason for not making it." Jones hit wall after wall, and was even sued by Goldwyn. Mystic Pizza was ultimately directed by a male director, one who had never directed a feature film before. However, Jones's script by this time had made the rounds through the industry, and her name remained tied to it. Even without her at the helm, due to great casting, Mystic Pizza would find success, and Jones received screenwriting offers, just not as a director. In her own words, "Once again, I'd be the woman beside the guy who was in charge, but at least, from now on, the words on the page would be mine." At the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, three women, director Casey Hushion, playwright Sandy Rustin, and orchestrator and arranger Carmel Dean, embarked on a new project together, to retell the story of the three women of Mystic Pizza as a musical. The three-woman team connected with the idea of sisterhood, not just within the context of the musical, but in the process itself. The three creators worked over Zoom, across oceans, sitting masked in their garage in the middle of winter, supporting each other through creative collaboration and artistic inspiration in order to keep the project going. In conversations with playwright Sandy Rustin and director Casey Hushion, they shared that the characters in the movie were written how women were expected to be portrayed in media at the time, and so this was an exciting opportunity to look at it through fresh eyes as women in the 2020s. While the story stays fairly faithful to the original, they did fight for the chance to update certain plot points to support the shift to a more feminist and contemporary adaptation. Being an all-female team gifted them the opportunity to have a shared goal amongst the collaborators. All understood that, yes, they were creating a fun jukebox musical, and yes, it had to be lively and entertaining and nostalgic, but also there was a collective understanding that they all had something more to say about what it means to come of age as a girl in this country. In Rustin's words, "We really took it to heart that this was an opportunity to say something more than just girls in a pizza shop having crushes on boys." While the show introduces us to three young women who, like Cyndi Lauper expresses, just want to have fun, the women we come to see by the end of Mystic Pizza are no longer simple products of their time. They can see that there is more that they can be, so long as they embrace their self-worth and potential and no longer allow themselves to be defined by others. They find strength in each other and their community, but also know that ultimately, it is down to them to take their futures into their own hands. The film Mystic Pizza is a product of its time, as so many beloved films of the past are, and at times it can be difficult to adjust our contemporary sensibilities and view them in the now as societal norms continue to ebb and flow. And while female creators of both film and theater continue to make their mark and carve out a space for their contributions, these industries are still rife with barriers and bias. But the musical version provides us with a chance to see a Mystic Pizza the way Amy Holden Jones always wanted. A female story created by and told by women and not viewed through the male gaze. While the three young women represent the heart of the piece, the titular pizza parlor featured in the Mystic Pizza story was inspired by the Mystic Pizza Shack in Mystic, Connecticut. Among the characters in the story are members of the Mystic community, and prevalent among them are first and second generation Portuguese Americans. Immigrants and their children striving in the fishing villages of lower New England to find happiness and success. And while immigrants were not the first to populate these American shores, their presence and contributions have been and will be felt for centuries. In the early 19th century, coastal New England port cities were bustling with trade and industry. In the words of the Mystic Seaport Museum, overseas migration, both forced and increasingly during the era of whaling, free, brought people from the coast of Africa into contact with indigenous communities in New England. These encounters initiated a complex intersection of social identity and shared struggle related to colonial displacement, but also a recognition of common expertise in navigating and utilizing the resources of the ocean. Additionally, Canadians, South Americans, and Europeans, including Portuguese, were all counted among the mariners serving aboard ships coming in and out of harbors. Most eventually returned to their homelands, but others remained, intent on building a new life. Many among those who stayed were Portuguese sailors. Wives and children made the journey to join their husbands, and some sailors found wives among other immigrant communities, and new family roots were established. By the 1850s, several Connecticut towns had thriving Portuguese communities, including New London, Norwich, and Stonington, which would provide filming locations for the Mystic Pizza film. With the National Origins Act of 1924, which was an exclusionary and discriminatory policy that severely reduced overall immigration to the United States through quotas on certain countries, immigration slowed over the following decades, until the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, also known as the Hart-Celler Act, changed immigration policy once again in the United States. The act abolished the quotas that had been in place and prioritized immigrants with skills, family ties to U.S. citizens, and political refugee status. The passing of these new immigration laws coincided with times of economic hardship and a dictatorial regime in Portugal, and resulted in an influx of new Portuguese immigrants over the next several years. The Herald News reported that in aging industrial cities of New England, whose populations were in severe decline, the effect of new immigration was positive, immediate, and immense. The immigrants worked in the garment shops, saving their wages to buy property, and once derelict tenements were restored by these hard-working immigrants. The Portuguese presence in New England continues to endure, and today, Connecticut remains home to one of the densest concentrations of Portuguese Americans in the United States. In Danbury, Connecticut, where they celebrate an annual Portuguese Day, the Portuguese Cultural Center in Little Portugal serves as a space for the community to share traditions, culture, food, and ideas, just as the pizza parlor serves as a gathering space for the Mystic population. In the musical, there is a fierce pride for what it means to be Portuguese American. We see it on display in the knowledge of fishing culture and in the simple insistence on the correct pronunciation of a family name. There is pride on display for what it means to be an immigrant and to strive to provide for your children, what it means to be the child of an immigrant, the drive to make your parents proud and to do right by them. There is also fierce pride on display for what it means to be working class, to labor, to work multiple jobs to get one step closer to your dreams. And we see the pride in what it means to be a part of a small town, to know everyone and to have your neighbor's success be tied to your own. And while Mystic Pizza embraces the desire to explore the world beyond one's small town home, there is no shame, only an abundance of love for the people and place that one calls home. So join us at Mystic Pizza and grab a slice of this quintessentially American life. Enjoy the show.